When a young man dies tragically, his family erects a gravestone marker. Little did they know they were about to cause a panic as people flocked to the site to see if this stone cross had mystical properties. And then we take a look at the story of a young man just hanging out one day when he sees a frightening sight standing out in his front yard. Little does he realize this is just the beginning of a tragic tale. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.
I'm a little freaked out. Actually, I'm a lot freaked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a ton of stuff to cover today. So first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Eerbud. Woohoo, yeah, yay. Running on in, covered in bug bites, covered in ticks. Oh no, Eerbud. Eerbud, ITBT on Twitter, is helping spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That is why they are going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store, it's totally fine, it really is. Just do what Eerbud does. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Also, before we get started, some super fast updates. Good news, bad news. We can say that as well. We're going to do our May movie night. I love doing the movie nights. They're a lot of fun. The May movie night will be May 30th. Cutting it close there. May 30th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The way that you can join our movie nights is to either be a paid member of the Patreon or a free member of the Patreon. There is a free tier now that you can sign up for. We will be doing that May 30th, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's always a lot of fun. We just watch a bunch of short horror movies, so you can pop in and out, but it's always a good time. That's the good news. The bad news is this. On June 1st, that will be our last Dead Rabbit Radio Sunday live episode. We're actually going to be wrapping that up. We've been doing that for a couple years now. It's been for paid Patreon members. We've had the Sunday morning live episodes. The reason why we're wrapping it up is that we're running into some pretty gnarly technical issues. And in the end, it could result in an entire episode having to be re-recorded. But we'll replace it with something at some point. So I apologize, but we've tried so many different things to fix that, and we just cannot. So May 3rd, good news, May 30th, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Dead Rabbit Radio movie night. Bad news, June 1st will be the last Dead Rabbit Radio live stream episode. That will be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Like, wait, what? Now you're all confused. You're on movie night. What? June 1st? Sorry, but yeah, I wanted to announce all that stuff. I've been letting the people who regularly come to the Sunday morning live episodes that we're going to shut this down. I kind of gave them a heads up, but now I'm kind of shooting it out to everyone. In case you've wanted to do that in the past, you got about 2 weeks, and we'd love to have you. Eerbud, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the bike lock of the bunny bike. Everyone climb on board this beautiful 10-speed. As Eerbud pedals us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command, why don't you go ahead and ride us on out all the way to Australia, mate? What was the sound effect? Inca, Inca, Inca. Inca, Inca, Inca. Probably should put some oil on those gears, but then it would make no sound effect. It would just be the sound of someone panting heavily. Which I don't think anybody wants. I think people are already taking their headphones off. They're like, nope, that's enough for today. Hearing Jason pant in my ear is very disturbing. We're headed all the way out to Australia. Specifically, we're headed to Lismore. That's in north-southwest Australia. That's a real direction. That's how they figure out stuff down there. North-southwest. You're like, oh, just kind of stand into the middle. You're like, where do I go now? And even more specific than that, we're headed to the North Lismore Pioneer Cemetery. The year is 1986. We're walking through this graveyard. We're wearing all black. The wind is particularly chilly. And we're just trudging through the cemetery. And finally we get to the grave we're looking for. I got lost for a while. I was like, I think, is this the one? Is this the one? They're like, you're the one leading the tour. You tell us. We're in a different cemetery at one point. We finally find the grave I'm looking for. And I sit down on the ground and I go, guys, this grave right here just looks like any other grave in this cemetery. And any other cemetery in the world. But it's not. It's not. You see this stone cross here? This stone cross marker? You're like, yeah. And I go, this is legendary. This stone marker here attracted hundreds of people from all around Australia. They came here to view this because of the magical properties it has. And I look at my watch, and I look up at the sun. It's starting to set. And I go, okay, yeah. It's almost time, guys. Take a seat among the dead. Like, can I just stand up? Nope, you gotta sit down. You gotta sit down like me in the wet grass. Sit down among the dead as I tell you the story of the glowing cross of Lismore. We're headed back. The story actually starts in 1907. Back then, there was a guy named William Steenson. He's 29 years old and he's a railway worker. And trains are coming through the area. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. And they're carrying a bunch of boxes of oranges and melons and stuff like that to the hungry Australians. And there's probably some passengers on there as well. People like dressed up in old-fashioned nice clothes and they're like sitting on the passenger cars and they're like, sir, can I have melons, please? And they're like, yeah, actually, we have a bunch of them. You can carve them yourself. But what happens is, this train is a runaway train. Melons are flying left and right. The rich and famous living on this bus, or not bus, train, I'm already getting confused. This train is a runaway train, so the passengers are like, they're spilling their melons. The conductor is like, what are we supposed to do now? And the other engineer guy's like, I don't know. Right? That's why you're the conductor. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Maybe if I pull these sticks a lot, it'll slow down. And what actually happened was this train was going to cause this crash near Mumblebimby when William Steenson sacrificed his life attempting to stop the runaway train. I do find it interesting. I read quite a few accounts of this. Maybe I missed something. I couldn't find whether or not he successfully stopped the train derailment. But whatever the case, he died. Whether or not he saved a day, whether or not the train derailed anyways, William passed away because of it. He was killed during this incident. His family decided to put up a marker on his grave, like a gravestone, but it's a cross. There's a particular term for it. I can't remember it right now. But anyways, it's in the sign of a cross. They had this type of granite, this Balmoral red granite imported from Scotland to make the grave marker, and there was an inscription. And the inscription says, quote, "Though sorrow and darkness encompass the tomb, thy Savior has passed through its darkness before thee, and the lamp of his love is thy guide through the gloom." Unquote. William is one of many bodies buried in this cemetery. And despite it kind of being an odd death, trying to stop a train derailment, some accounts even said he tried to stop it with his bare hands. I don't think that happened. I mean, technically he might have used his bare hands to pull a lever. I don't think he tried stopping a train or holding up a train because he saw it was about to tip over. But anyways, the point is, I thought that was notable. A couple of accounts said he tried to stop it with his bare hands. I go, what? Anyways, he dies, and his family mourns him, and his friends mourn him. The world marched forward, though. Until the year 1918, around 10 years later, it was around that year when people in the area, they started noticing a bizarre phenomenon happening in the graveyard. After the sun had set, the world was dark. If you were traveling through this area and you looked over and you saw this graveyard, you would see in the middle of it a bright glowing cross. Upon closer inspection, because obviously people were super, curious about this, probably a little freaked out, a little worried. Is this a sign of the end times? Is this a miracle? Is it something that can be explained? People would go to investigate it. The locals would go, and they saw that the bright white cross that was glowing in the dark was the stone cross over William's grave. This stone marker was so bright it actually illuminated the nearby graves as well. Well, not just a faint glow. Something was happening. The locals didn't understand what it was. A lot of them did chalk it up to ghostly activity, or the fact that the marker was truly making the inscription come to life. The lamp of his love is thy guide through the gloom. But this was a local secret. They didn't talk about it outside of town. It was something that people in the area knew about, and if they were curious, they could see it for themselves. But other than that, this phenomenon, which was called the ghost on the hill, was kept under wraps. No one outside of the town knew about this. Now, whether that was because they didn't want to seem like a laughingstock believing in old superstitions, or, and more likely, honestly, they didn't have the ability to spread the story far and wide. In 1918, it's not like you could just hop on the internet. Maybe you could get a reporter out there to cover a story on it, but other than that, how are you really going to spread the tale of the ghost on the hill? And even if you heard about it, if you were on the other side of Australia, you're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm not going to take a steamer ship over there to see it. I'm definitely not taking a train. I hear your trains derail out in Lismore. The story stayed a local story for the next 60 years. In 1978, a local woman ended up telling this story to a reporter who wrote for the Northern Star newspaper, which is a very, very popular newspaper in Australia. It had a very wide readership, and for the first time, the story escaped the town, and now hundreds of thousands of people heard about the ghost on the hill, the glowing cross of Lismore, and it caused nothing less than a hysteria. You had people traveling from all over to view the phenomenon itself. They wanted to see if this cross could truly glow in the dark. It's interesting, there is, as far as anyone who can tell who's looked into this, really one photo of the glowing cross of Lismore while it's glowing at night. But almost everyone agrees that this photo was probably retouched by the newspaper who published it. They don't know for sure that this is actually a photo of the phenomenon to show how bright it can actually get. And we don't know. It could actually show the strength of the light. It could have just been a little bit of the natural light and a little bit of a newspaper editor's fantabulousness, i.e. adding a little more sensationalism to the story. But you had people from all over come to check out this glowing cross. In fact, the locals were pretty sketched out by all of this. This was something that they had gotten used to. Over the course of 60 years, people had lived and died. Well, maybe not died. It's pretty young, but you know what I mean? Like, people had spent their entire lives knowing that this was a thing, seeing it whenever they wanted to. Now you had people traveling from all over to catch a glimpse of this themselves. Some people, visitors from outside, said that the glowing cross had miraculous properties. So, of course, those stories now are generating even more visitors out there. If you or a loved one is sick and you hear a story about the glowing cross of Lismore cured my daughter's gout, you'd go there. You'd see if it could work. You'd be hoping for a miracle yourself. Locals also complained that there were reports of weirdos invading the area. You'd have people in the area, oh great, thanks a lot, Northern Star, for publishing that newspaper. Because people said that late at night you would see processions of people late at night around the glowing cross with weird clothes. That was the word that they used. Quote, weird clothes, and they'd be holding candles. Almost as if they were doing some sort of ritual. To think that your town is now a hotbed for the desperate and the bizarre. But there actually was another group of people who would come out to see the glowing cross. They wanted to visit the ghost on the hill because they believed that it was all fake. Not that there was anyone actually making the story up. Not that there was any sort of sinister intent in faking it. It was the fact that they go, there has to be a reason why this cross is glowing the way that it does. Because here's the thing. Whether or not the photograph in the newspaper was retouched to make it brighter, when people traveled out to this area to see the glowing cross, they saw the glowing cross. You had people now from all over saying, oh, that actually does light up at night. How does that happen? How does that work? Is it a miracle? Or is there a scientific explanation for that? And you had the skeptics come out and they tried their best to figure out what it could be. Some of the theories was that the granite, the way that it was polished, would just reflect the light in the area. So a car driving by, or a bunch of cultists with candles, or the setting sun, they go, it's light reflecting off of the stone marker. The problem with that is that it would glow at night, even when there was no light around. The other theory was that, and also because they go, well, maybe it's the moon. Maybe it's the moonlight reflecting off of this red granite. But it would glow on moonless nights as well. And that was recorded. They could show that it glowed even when the moon wasn't out. Some people claimed that the cross could be radioactive. That's something you would want to get to the bottom of, but there was no proof that it was radioactive. Others said that it could be petrified glowworms that somehow got into the Balmoral red granite mix, and that's what's causing it to glow. I mean, at a certain point, skeptics just got to take the L. Right? I mean, at a certain point, you're like, okay, it's glowing. I can't explain why it's glowing. It's probably not glowworms. Can't think of anything else. Maybe there is something behind this. None of the theories that the skeptics came up with could ever really say why it was glowing. And like many of these supernatural, paranormal hysterias we've seen over the centuries, whether it's a statue of Mary that is crying blood, or a stain that looks like Jesus' face underneath a sink in a parish, whatever the case is, there's tons of these stories. Eventually, the hysteria dies down. Eventually, people just kind of go about their lives. Maybe some of them got a miraculous healing from it. Hopefully, right? Miracles are always good, but eventually the town of Lismore returns to normal. The glowing cross still glows, but all the weirdos are gone. For about 5 years. Give or take. Because in the 1980s, all of a sudden the hysteria pops up again. People who didn't hear about the glowing cross the first time, or the people who forgot about it, they're like, hey, honey, how's your gout? And she's like, oh, I was cured from that glowing cross. Oh, yeah! Forgot about that. I wonder if it's still there. You had the initial hysteria in the late 1970s, and then in the mid-1980s, after a bit of a lull, I don't know if another newspaper article was published, I don't know what caused this second one, but all of a sudden, people outside of Lismore started talking about the glowing cross of Lismore. And once again, you had this huge pilgrimage of people coming out to see it, to try to debunk it, to try to utilize its powers. You had all these people show up again. Different people this time. People in town are like, damn it, like we thought that this was over with. I thought I could finally go to sleep without 20 guys in robes and candles walking past my house. But this time, it's very interesting. This time, the visitors did not come unprepared. Many of them showed up in town with not only a mystery in their mind, but a chisel in their hand. Within just a few years, the glowing cross of Lismore was chipped away. Chip, 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 chink. Chip, 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 chink. People taking home chunks of it as a souvenir. By the year 1986, the glowing cross was completely gone. I'm sitting there on the ground and I'm playing with the grass, batting it back and forth. And you're like, what? Jason, it's 1986 right now when you're telling the story, and you're sitting right next to this stone cross. And it's on the right guy's grave, right? The guy's name was William Steenson. You're looking at it. We're at the right grave. And that inscription that you read earlier, that's on this stone cross. But what's going on? Is this a Mandela effect story? How is it back? And at that time, I see the sun set over the horizon. Darkness is slowly creeping over Australia. It's nighttime. And I go, this is the replacement. They built this one in 1986. They had the exact same Balmoral red granite shipped over from Scotland. Has the exact same inscription. It's placed in the exact same location as the original glowing cross of Lismore. But this one does not glow. We're sitting out there in the pitch dark graveyard. No one brought a flashlight. Everyone thought, oh, this thing's going to be so well lit, we'll be able to find our way back to the bunny bicycle. No moon out. Somewhere off in the distance, we hear a pack of hungry dingoes howling in the night. This one does not glow at all. Which to a lot of people knocks out pretty much all of the skeptical theories. It's made of the same material. It's not having the same reaction. I mean, the radioactive one might have been their best guess. No glowing worms, petrified glowing worms in this, nothing. It's the same thing. And I think that the citizens of Lismore were hoping... Actually, that's an interesting question. Were they hoping this one glowed as well, which would show the beauty of the inscription and the strength of William's soul, sacrificing his own life to save others? Or were they relieved that this one doesn't glow? Because what that would imply was that the first one was indeed a miracle, a once-in-a-lifetime event or item that cannot be replicated, that cannot be duplicated. There's a beauty in something that only exists a single time. There's a lot of different ways you can look at the story. I think this is really fascinating because, I mean, I just kind of, based on like all of the reporting that I see, the phenomenon is probably real. The cross was most likely glowing for almost 100 years, up until it completely vanished. I don't really have much to say about the event itself, but let's go to the vanishing. This is very interesting. One of three scenarios have taken place, and I'll try to get through these quickly, and we'll move on to the next story. One is that the cross was actually miraculous. For whatever reason, paranormal reason, the cross truly did glow. And over the course of about 1.5 years, 2 years, it was chipped to pieces and taken away by tourists. And what that would mean was that those pieces also probably are still imbued with some sort of paranormal power. If you broke a chunk off of it and took it home, does that still have the same miraculous power as the glowing cross itself? If you had a miraculous item and you broke it up, would the miracle also be in the individual items? It's interesting because as people were chipping away at the glowing cross of Lismore, because it wasn't an overnight thing, even though pieces of it were removed, the cross on the grave continued to glow each night. So it's not like if you removed enough of it, the power would fade. So I think each individual chunk may also still have a paranormal power. Each individual chunk, even if it's something you can fit in the palm of your hand, may glow at night. And in a bunch of junk drawers and musty old garages and underneath beds of your grandparents' house or great-great-parents' house, they may have gotten a chunk of that cross. But over time, it just gets kind of tossed aside. It glows at night, and it'd be fun to show to people when they come over. But eventually you are going to put it aside. Like so many other things we collect that mean a lot to us over the years, eventually they all get put aside. Some of them may have been thrown away. Some of them may still be in families' collections out there. Who knows? That's one thing to look at. The other thing, there's two more things. I'll speak faster. The other thing, as I was thinking, was that it was being vandalized. People were chipping away at it. People were stealing pieces of it. I wonder if the town, to get ahead of it, ended up removing the whole structure. You would know at a certain point that it was getting vandalized. And the stories don't make it clear that they actually watched it get reduced to rubble over a period of a few years. They just say that so many people took pieces from it that eventually there was no more cross of Lismore. And I wonder if at a certain point, after, say, 30% of it was chipped away and the locals had seen what was going on and they tried having police out there and they tried monitoring it, and they couldn't stop the vandals from chipping away pieces, they removed the cross to save this symbol of faith and bravery and darkness, a symbol that means a lot to this community. And then you had all these outsiders destroying it. I wonder if it was chipped away to a point that the locals removed it themselves and then said, look what you did. Look at it's all gone. You guys chipped away so much of it. There's nothing left. We'll get a new one up, though. And that Lismore still has possession of the cross safely put away. It's part of their heritage. They didn't want it to be destroyed and taken by outsiders piece by piece. So they put it away. Unfortunately, they have to remove it from even their own eyes. Maybe they could stop. Maybe they could stop by the warehouse on the way home one day and be like, hey, can I go see the glowing cross? Yeah, come on in. They had to remove it to save it and hide it away so no one would find it to destroy it. My third theory is this, and this is something we've talked about before on the show, and that's the idea that I believe that there are either government agencies or private groups that collect, i.e. steal, these types of paranormal objects. They'd steady them. Maybe it's just for a collector. Maybe some super rich dude just wants to have all of this stuff. I mean, I would go so far as to say, Zach Baggins has all this haunted stuff in his haunted museum, and the Warrens had Annabelle doll. Zach Baggins might have Annabelle doll at this point. I'd be surprised if any of that stuff is real. Not in the sense that Zach Baggins or the Warrens were faking all of this stuff, but in the fact that if these were truly paranormal items, the government would take them. You go, Jason, what would the U.S. government do with Annabelle the doll? It's not a good spy. It actually totally stands out. She is creepy. She appears in mirrors. I actually don't know what she does. I saw the second Annabelle movie. But I know that there's real stories based on Annabelle as well. But my point is that the governments of the world do not like chaos. And paranormal is nothing but chaos. And if we're trying to make contact with aliens, if we're trying to figure out if there's life in deep space, if we're trying to figure out who or what is piloting these drones, I do not find it illogical at all that the government would say, we also need to figure out, are demons real? Are ghosts real? How do we communicate with them? Is there any way we can weaponize them? If this item that was found causes bad luck, and there are these stories about this particular painting passing through different families and each family being struck down with bad luck, the U.S. government would take that painting and they would analyze it the same way they would analyze crashed UFO fragments. Governments do not like chaos. And if they can weaponize something, they will. I think it'd be great to go to those museums and look around and see all that stuff. I'd be surprised if any of it's authentic. It'd be so easy to replicate. And I'm wondering if people were chipping away at this and at some point either a private organization that's studying the paranormal at a high level, not ghost hunters, high level, we're talking Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission type of power level, or a government took the cross. They just snatched it and it's in some warehouse somewhere. If they haven't destroyed it. Trying to figure out how it works or why it works or what it does, all of that stuff. Either way, whichever one of those three, it is destroyed. The new one shows no properties of the original cross. Very, very interesting story, and I think the disappearance, while it can be kind of hand-waved away saying, a bunch of people just chipped it away until it was gone. I think that's only part of the story. I think something else is going on there. And there's another mystery. The initial mystery is, why did it do what it did? How did it glow in the middle of the night? And that mystery has not been solved. It's a very interesting one. But now I think there's an equally valid mystery, is who has the cross now? And what are they planning to do with it? Let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world. Famous Carpenter Copter, we're saying goodbye to Australia. Why don't you go ahead and fly us all the way out to a baby's bedroom? Now, I had to change up stories a bit because I kind of ran out of time. I don't even remember what the original story was. Honestly, I'm recording this later in the day. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure it was awesome, and I'm sure we'll save it for another day. But this one's a little short, a little sweet, or is it? Well, it's short. It is short, but is it sweet? Well, let's find out. We're headed all the way out to this baby's bedroom. It's the middle of the night. We're about to meet a young woman, a young mother. We'll go ahead and call her Debbie. And Debbie recently gave birth to a little baby who we will call Joyce. Wee, wee. It's okay, baby Joyce. It's okay. Time to fall asleep. Put the baby in the crib. See you later, baby Joyce. Mama loves you. Wee, wee. Baby Joyce is fast asleep. Mama Debbie puts her down in her crib and then goes to her own bedroom. Shortly after putting baby Joyce to sleep, Debbie falls asleep herself, but not for too long, because she begins to have a dream that her grandma is in the house. Now, grandma's dead. Creepy, maybe. We've all dreamed about dead relatives. I don't think it would necessarily be considered creepy. Grandma's not crawling out from underneath your bed. You know, that's actually an interesting... If I was a demon, you know what I would do? I would wait until your family members died, and then I would impersonate them in your dreams. So, like, for example, like, Jason, we totally know what sick, crazy thing you're about to say. You don't need to give examples. Your grandmother dies. It was really sad. You're going to miss her. You wonder if there's life on the other side. One night you're sleeping, and you have a dream that you're in grandma's house, but something's off. Something's different about it. You can't really tell what it is. It looks exactly like grandma's house. You've been there 100 times as a kid. And all of a sudden you hear like a scratching noise, and you turn around, and grandma is on all fours, scuttling behind you. Not chasing you, just following you. No matter what you say, she doesn't respond. You try shaking her, she doesn't move. You try running away, she just scuttles after you. But never attacking you, just creepy. And then you'd wake up, and here's the difference. This is why I would do that. You're like, why don't you just have grandma jump out of a closet in the middle of the night, in the middle of a dream, in the middle of the night. The dream's taking place in the middle of the night is what I'm saying. You're sleeping in the middle of the night, but your dream is also taking place in the middle of the night in the dream world. If you had a dream, you really missed grandma, and you had this dream where you opened the closet and grandma jumped out with no skin, going, "Aah!" That would scare you, but it wouldn't make you question the afterlife. You would go, oh my god, that was like the scariest dream I could possibly have had in this moment. I must be undergoing a lot of stress. I must be really depressed about losing grandma. However, if you had a dream where your grandma was just this mindless, crawling fiend, you would actually think, oh my god, is grandma in the afterlife? Is she walking around on all fours? It's such a bizarre dream. And the fact that she's following you and not trying to hurt you, you could take a lot of stuff away. You could take a lot of stuff away from that dream. You can go, grandma's trapped. Grandma's trapped in this horrific form, and she's following me because she needs my help. I need to go speak to a spiritualist. I need to go speak to a medium and see if we can contact grandma and see if she's okay. And then the demon could use that to the medium to corrupt your life even more. Oh, grandma is trapped in hell. the demon-possessed medium says. And to save her, you have to do this ritual. Do you have any virgin blood laying around? And you're like, oh, I don't? Well, luckily the medium sells some. Just got a shipment in. I got all the virgin blood you need. Wink. Demon-possessed medium has you in its grasp. If I was a demon, that's what I would do. I would create creepy dreams involving your dead loved ones. That has nothing to do with that. That has nothing to do with this story. That just popped in my head right now. This story is in a totally opposite direction. Debbie's having a dream. Grandma's standing at the side of her bed. Debbie looks up at Grandma and goes, what? Like, she knows Grandma's dead. Even in the dream, she knows Grandma's dead. She looks at Grandma and she goes, what? What are you doing here? Grandma looks down at Debbie and simply says, move the baby. Debbie immediately wakes up. She's like, what in the world was that? What type of bizarre dream was that? Move the baby. Well, I mean, I understand what she was trying to say, but like, it was just a dream, right? And Debbie's just kind of laying there, but then she goes, you know, I have this feeling I actually need to go up and pick up baby Joyce. She starts to feel this urge to do that. So she does. She walks into baby Joyce's room, picks up the little sleeping baby. Come here, come here. Rubbing your baby against you. Swaddling it, I think, is what it's normally referred to as. But anyways, Debbie brings baby Joyce into her own bedroom. Debbie can't shake the feeling that she has to keep baby Joyce with her. It wasn't just a dream. It was a warning. A short time after Debbie picked up baby Joyce and brought her back to her own room, there's a loud crash. The ceiling above Joyce's crib collapsed, damaging the crib, and had baby Joyce been in there, it would have horribly maimed her, if not killed her. And if you think that is amazing, you're like, kind of, I guess. I mean, a baby being saved is an interesting story. Let me back up here, because I looked over at my notes, and let me tell you the end of the story. I didn't read my notes all the way. Everything I said was true, except one detail was kind of mixed up. The next morning, after the ceiling collapsed, and luckily baby Joyce isn't hurt, Debbie gets a phone call. Bring, bring. Hello? Debbie says. On the phone is Debbie's grandpa. And he tells Debbie, honey, I hate to break the news to you, but Grandma died last night. Debbie goes, huh? Which is probably pretty much, wait, what? I thought she was already dead. You went on this huge thing about scuttling grandmas and dead relatives appearing in dreams. I know, that's because I didn't read my notes, but no, she wasn't dead at that time. Well, she was dead in the middle of the night. She died in the middle. Like, you pull in the car over, you're like, wait, what? Can I get a notepad? Is there like a little diagram? Okay, so let me tell you the story again, like within a minute. Grandma is still alive. Debbie knows that Grandma is still alive. Like, Jason, just re-record it. Just kind of wasting her time at a certain point. When Debbie goes to bed, Grandma is still alive. Grandma and Grandpa. Debbie falls asleep after putting baby Joyce away in the crib. Debbie wakes up, sees Grandma in her... Debbie has a dream that Grandma... Now I'm getting confused too. I'm like, wait, what? Huh? Maybe I have to pull over and make a diagram. Debbie has a dream. Grandma's in it. Grandma says, move the baby. Debbie wakes up and goes, thankfully, I had this crazy dream of my still alive grandma, as far as I know. Debbie goes into Joyce's room, picks the baby up, takes her back to Debbie's room. Ceiling collapses, crib's damaged. Baby's saved. The next morning, that's when Debbie finds out that Grandma's dead. Like, Jason, okay, I mean, that's a little more interesting. Probably would have been way more interesting had you gotten the story right the first time. Probably. But here's my point. This is my point. We're going to wrap it up like this. Very, very interesting question. Did Grandma have to die to save the baby? So think about it. There's a couple different ways this story could have played out. Grandma lives through the night. She does not die in the middle of the night. Her soul does not gain access to what we call the supernatural superhighway, or the paranormal superhighway, or the spiritual internet, whatever term you want to use, that ghosts seem to have access to. That a ghost, in the afterlife, we don't know for sure, but it seems like in the afterlife, they have access to more information than we have here on Earth, as people being alive. Now, that only applies to spirits that have passed on, not to ghosts trapped and haunting a specific location. Grandma dies. She goes into the afterlife. She sees that baby Joyce may be joining her soon. If Grandma slept through the night, woke up the next morning alive, would baby Joyce have been crushed by the ceiling? Because that kind of sounds like how it would play out. Grandma dies in the middle of the night. Her soul then goes into the afterlife and sees what's about to happen. And then warns Joyce, hey, honey, you gotta move the baby. You gotta move the baby. If the grandma had not died, baby Joyce might have. So, did Grandma have to die to save baby Joyce? It kind of looks like yes. Here, what I'm wondering, Grandma died in the middle of the night. We don't know why. We don't know if car accident, ceiling fell on her, sickness. We don't know. We just know that she passed away. I wonder if she was offered a trade in a way. That she basically gave up her life to save baby Joyce's. And the reason why I say that is we do have these stories of people having these near-death experiences and having these conversations with these other entities. Sometimes they're described as just humans. Sometimes they're described as loved ones, relatives who have passed away, pets that have passed away. Sometimes they're seen as angelic or supernatural entities. A lot of times there's dialogue saying, hey, no, you got to go back. It's not your time and such and such. And those are the near-death experiences that we hear about because they did come back. We've done a lot of episodes on those. I'll put some in the show notes. We even covered negative near-death experiences, which I find interesting as well. Put those in the show notes as well. I wonder, because the timing is just so perfect. She either died and then was able to warn that the ceiling was going to collapse, or she was on the cusp of dying. And had she not died that night, baby Joyce probably would have. And whether or not Grandma's holding on, not wanting to go over, did one of these spiritual entities say, hey, it's your time. I know you don't want to go. I know you're not ready. I know you'd rather still be here with your husband and your family on this beautiful planet Earth, but it's time for you to come with us. And honestly, you dying tonight will save your own great-grandchild. I mean, of course you're going to cross over at that point. I think any parent or grandparent or great-grandparent or anyone in that family line would say, I'll do it. So was she offered a choice? Was it just happenstance that she died on that night right before the accident? Because we do see some limitations to how spirits in the afterlife works among the recently deceased. Meaning, most of the time when people are grieving the loss of a loved one, they have a dream about them, one of those dreams where their loved one, their best friend, their wife, their puppy that they grew up with, they seem to have a dream about them that's of a healing nature. It's not that you're just dreaming about them. It's them telling you it's okay, everything's going to be okay, don't worry about me, I'm fine. Those dreams tend to happen in very short order. A couple days after the death, a couple weeks, a month or two at tops. It's very rare you hear a story about someone who said, my best friend died, and then 4 years later I had a dream about them and they said, hey, don't worry about me. You're like, dude, you could have shown up a little bit earlier. I've been worrying about you for 4 years. You're doing okay? Yeah, man, I'm fine. Everything's good over here. There does seem to be a window of time where they can pop into your dream and say goodbye or deliver a message. If Grandma had died 3 months ago, she may not have been able to warn of this disaster. If she died 3 months later, she would have died not knowing that she had the opportunity to save the life of her great-granddaughter and wasn't able to. It was at the specific moment that it all seemed to work out. So I think the answer to the question, did Grandma have to die for baby Joyce to live? Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful story on one level, but then when you start kind of analyzing it, you go, wow, that everything seemed to work out and played out in just the right order. That seemed to be a spiritual message that saved a baby's life. And then when you really start to look at the nitty-gritty details, which is what we love to do here on Dead Rabbit Radio, it seems that there's just more meat to this story. Crazy story. I love little things like this. Things that you can kind of analyze and take a look at and you can talk about for about 20 minutes. Didn't mean to talk about it that long. But I do love doing this show, and I do talk a lot, and most of it gets edited out. But at this point, when I say I'm running out of time for this episode, I literally mean I have to start editing it. Otherwise, I will not be able to go to sleep tonight. And if I don't go to sleep, how am I going to get messages from my dead relatives telling me to move my babies? I just have I'm walking into other people's houses. I was like, oh, Grandma told me, take the baby. Grandma's like, no. I said, move the baby. And I wasn't even talking to you. I'm all walking around, armfuls of my neighbor's babies. Grandma, what do you command me to do now? Ooh. Walking around with all these babies. And then my grandma looks at the camera and winks. It's Demon Grandma. I'm telling you, man, that is like the creepy. I've been thinking about scuttling grandmas the rest of this segment. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be your email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the